Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up. Unfazed, right? And in menudo style in a direct fashion, what we need to get to is that notification button. Ding! Hit it. Make sure that your notification bell is on all, so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel, as we always do, man. And I'm very grateful and very humbled, so thank you. So I seen a video that Dubs did the other day talking about prison curfew, right? And for those of you that have never been incarcerated in the California Department of Corrections, then you wouldn't understand what a prison curfew is. And now prison curfew it's not for everybody, okay? Not every group has a curfew. And what a prison curfew means is not like the curfew when you were little, you got to get in before the lights cut out, right? Outside or before they cut on. It wasn't nothing like that. It was more so you had a certain amount of time depending upon your group or organization, how long you could stay on certain yards. Now, when you're a northerner or a southerner, even a white, right? There are your yards that are off limits to you. For whatever reason, these yards have been deemed basura, trash, no good, soft yards. And so you cannot go onto them yards and post up. Because if you stay there for a certain amount of time, you're considered trash, just like what they consider the people that are already on that yard. Now, when it comes to the brothers, the blacks, they don't have these obligations, nor is it in their politics that they can't function on certain yards. They can go whatever yard they want to. Besides an SNY yard, of course, they're going to have that stigma that's going to be put on them. But they could definitely go to yards, right? Whichever yard they choose. Now, I seen Dubs did a video and it was like the prison curfew. And he talked about the Southerners having about a 90-day policy, to go onto a yard, set up shop, basically make some feria or get targets or do whatever they're going to do. And then they have to get on down the road. They have to make an example. And the way you make an example is you get off. You pick a target. You go on the yard. You're basically hunting. You get them comfortable. You rock them to sleep. And then you bust a move, right? You get your money is what it's called. You get your money. Now, with Nortenos, it's a little bit different. And that's why on the title of this video, it's the hardest prison curfew. Because I truly believe that the Nortenos have the hardest prison curfew because it's the amount of time you're allotted to get off or you're considered trash, right? Now, with the Norteño movement, it's going to be about 72 hours, or at least that's what it used to be in my time, right? And 72 hours moves fast. Usually, most Norteños that are active, that are hitting a yard that is washed up or considered soft, they're not going to stay there longer than 72 hours. Now, there are situations where I've seen administration, the placas, put them on yards and set them up, right? And I'm going to explain a couple of those situations. But for the most part, with that 72-hour period that you have that curfew, you got to get there, get your property, get situated, get off. Now, most Norteños are going to get off in R&R as soon as they hit that yard. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. When a Norteño is sent to a 50-50 yard, back then they had 50-50 yards. And I don't know what they have now. These integrated yards is a little bit different. But back then when they had 50-50 yards and you're sent there, right? You already know you have 3 days, 72 hours. Okay? But it's not going to be as easy as you think. See, within the Norteño movement, there's a lot you have to go through before you're embraced or you're even allowed within the household or you're even allowed as a functioning homeboy. You have to pass a certain time period, even if you're active, until you're considered all good. The check is going to get ran on you. You're going to get vetted. People are going to want to know exactly where you've been, where you're coming from, what you're about, check your paperwork. And it goes even deeper than that, right? With the NAQs and all these different things. And basically, it's a questionnaire to kind of figure out where your mindset is, who you are, what's your status, where you've been, tattoos that you have, monikers, names, because there's a lot of people that like to wiggle. They'll be from a certain city and then all of a sudden they're from just that county, or they change their name, right? In order to kind of wiggle and get in where they fit in. But the Norteños have a way to prevent that from happening. Nowadays with phones, I'm sure it's a lot easier to make a couple phone calls. You say you're from Avadu, they could just reach out and call one of your homeboys from your neighborhood and see if you're really from that neighborhood and what you're all about, at least on the streets. Now, that doesn't mean in prison you're not still functioning and still good, because they could fuck around and get a hold of the wrong homeboy and he could dick you up. He could basically say, oh, no, that fool's all bad just because he's mad because you fucked his old lady or something, right? So they have different ways of vetting. But the 72-hour curfew, I believe, is probably the hardest or most rigorous curfew in the CDC system. Now, I understand with the Southsiders having 90 days, The Southern mentality that I've always come across is not really a gangbanging mentality. On the streets, they're more gangbangers. They're into body-on-body warfare and all that. But when they get incarcerated, I've seen the South be pretty much about money. They're about making feria, about establishing. With Norteños, it's always about cleaning up trash. It's always about being able to function and establish on a yard that's solid. Now, it's always boggled my mind, and I always tripped out. I remember asking one of the homeboys, he was giving me clecha, and I asked him this question. He kind of looked at me confused because I think he was confused, right? I go, hey, bro, I always thought as a Norteño, we're supposed to strive for the betterment of the people. We're supposed to establish wherever we go. It doesn't matter if there's one of us or 10 of us. Wherever we go, we plant our flag, right? That's the way I was always taught. That's the way I was gamed up. That it didn't matter about the numbers or the yard. As long as we planted our flag, we could flip that yard and make it a functioning yard, right? And he told me, you're right. That's the way of thinking. But at the same time, you don't have the status or the knowledge of what's happened at that particular prison to call that fucking cuete, basically, to call that shot. So you just got to go with the program. I remember sitting there in Tracy prison, and this was my first term. I'm in Tracy prison. I'm chilling amongst the homeboys. I'm embraced in the household. I was an active general population Norteño at the time. And I was feeling myself. I recognized a lot of gente that I knew from the streets, a lot of people from Modesto, Stockton, Merced. This was our hub. This was our fucking reception, right? The Central Valley. And so I've seen a lot of homeboys I was in the youth authority with, catching up with a lot of the homeboys, real solid homies. And, everybody was going to different places. It's all about a point system. So depending upon your points, I've seen homeboys were going to high desert, 180 yards. Seen homeboys going to level 3, 270 yards. And I had level 3 points. So I figured, okay, at that time, more than likely, they're going to send me like to Susanville, or they're going to send me to Corcoran, or they're going to send me somewhere where there's a level 3 yard, and I'm going to go function with the homeboys. At that time, I wasn't tripping off nothing. I was just another homeboy trying to get in where I fit in, right? But I was laced up enough to know that if they did send me to a yard that was considered no good, then I was going to get off. It was already in my mind. I had already said it in my mind, like, hey, all I care about is the Norteño movement. That's all that matters in my life. And I don't give a fuck what happens. If they send me, I'm going to get off. And sure enough, asking you shall receive, or don't even ask. When it comes to the Norteños, you're going to receive, period, right? Now, you got to understand with the Norteño car, there was, at that time, man, they weren't sending a lot of Norteños down south. If you had like a medical problem, they would send you like to Norco, I believe, CRC. There was some Norteños that would wiggle and go down south, but it wouldn't last too long for them. They'd either get off, or somebody, Southsiders would get off on them. And it's a trip. That's just how it was, places like Calipatria, Centinela, Ironwood, Norteños weren't really functioning on those yards. So if a northerner went and tried to establish something, the southerners quickly fucking got off, right? They didn't want Norteños on them yards. They had it going on. So I was aware that if I went anywhere down south, more than likely I was to get off, or I would ask the homeboy, hey, what is it? What are we doing down there? You always want to ask someone rather than just assume, because it's so hard in the Norteño movement. If you go assuming, you're probably going to get washed up and deemed all bad. I mean, you can get deemed all bad for any little thing, right? So, of course, they come to my door. They let me know, hey, you're going to Jamestown. All right. Orale, Jamestown, right? Got at my celly. He's like, Jamestown's all bad for the homies. All right, cool. Now, you got to understand, when he says it was all bad, I didn't question it. Why? Why is it all bad, right? It's all bad because it's all bad. That's it. If they say, hey, this yard's no good, homie, we're not allowed on this yard, then, and it's not that we are not allowed. We can go wherever we wanted at that time. It's just that for whatever reason, the organization had said, hey, we're not going to function on this yard. This is a trash yard. It's just not within our fucking better judgment to go there and kick it. Now, the reason it makes it hard for a Norteño curfew is this. These guys that are ex-Norteños, that used to be with the business, know the business well. Okay? They're not all suckers or punks. I never say that about anyone like, oh, this dude's a bitch or a punk, man. He couldn't hang. Like, if you couldn't hang, you couldn't hang. We all got different stories, man. I'm not going to judge no one. It just is what it is. If you fall off in the back of the cop car, then you fell off in the back of the cop car. What's the difference from falling off in the back of the cop car to falling off while you're locked up? It's all falling off, right? You all fall to the same place. That's in a pile of caca. So That's how I feel. Just truly, right? I don't think anyone's better than anyone, but at the same time, I think actions and the way you carry yourself and the way you program and function as a grown man is going to tell the story. So anyways, I pull up on Jamestown. And I know that with the Nortenos, the non-actives are not going to just allow an active Norteño to get off and get his money. See, they had a free golden ticket to get off first, right? And it was going on like that for a while. Then 50-50 yards, you'll pull up. And that was a 50-50 yard. And I ended up going back to that yard later on. I'll tell you the story. But I got there already with the mindset I'm going to get off. Okay, I just needed to pick my time to shine. But I wasn't even trying to function on that yard. I wasn't trying to hit that yard and go play it off. Because to me, I always thought that was kind of a cowardice move. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because Vatos are going to hit you up right from the gate as soon as they see you. Because they're looking out for themselves. They're going to be like, hey, you active? You a homie? And the way I believe is if you say, yeah, Simone Holmes, I'm a homie, that's a cowardice move. If you're not, or you are, then you fucking got to do what you do. Now, it was reverse on the 50-50 side. They were going to ask if you were active. And if you said you were active, they were going to get off on you. When they had the free pass to get off on you, cops weren't tripping. They were letting them do their thing, right? As long as they didn't stab you and kill you, as long as they just fucking stomped you out or whatever, blackers weren't really tripping. No harm, no foul. They didn't want active Norteños to go on that yard and disrupt it. They liked the way it was, right? So with the ex-Norteños that were there, of course, they were going to post up on you. And they knew to post up on you for at least 3 days. So they'd have a couple postes on you. That means a couple guys shadowing you, SBing you, shadows. And they're watching you. And if they seen you or heard that you were trying to get a piece, or they seen you trying to get some weapon stock, or anything that looked unusual, they were just going to get off. Who was going to tell them they couldn't? What if some guy recognized you and he's now an ex-Norteño, you're active, and he sees you and he's going to immediately be like, hey, bro, I don't like this Vato. This Vato fucking, he's undercover. He's sleeping. He's a sleeper. So anyways, it was pretty hard to do that, man. I seen so many Norteños. When I was on the 50-50 yard later on in life, man, I seen Vatos fucking get there and just get smashed. I never participated in it because I felt like, hey, bro, if you wanted to gangbang and do all that, you should have did that where it counted. I understood maintaining safety and security and these Vatos can't walk our yard. But a lot of these guys were, like Dub says, disgruntled employees. They just wanted to beat up on someone because they had the power, the numbers. It was more of a bullying tactic, right? And I understood, though. I understood it on both sides, but I just never participated in it because to me, I had better things to do, like get out and fucking get to my family, right? But whatever. To each their own. Like I said, if I wanted to play the tough role and act like a tough guy, I'd have been where the tough guys are. These guys weren't tough guys. These guys were guys that were preying on other people, but getting tattoos on themselves and acting tough, right? The type of dudes that get all fucking blasted down and act tough, but really ain't that, right? So anyways, tattoos don't make you hard, man. They just make it so you can't get a job. So anyways, within the Norteño movement, the reason I think that the curfew is the hardest is you have 72 hours. So I pulled up to Jamestown, and my whole plan was to get off on R&R if I can. So it used to be like this, for those that don't know, and it changes up. But when you used to get off on the bus, right? And I was active, so they put me in the back in the chains with everyone else. PCs that were already protective custody that had to be on keepaways, they'd have in like certain cages or they'd put them up front. They'd kind of separate, right? So everyone knew what they were about. You didn't acknowledge them, didn't even talk to them, didn't even look at them. You didn't spit on them. You didn't do all that weird knack shit. You just kind of like let them do them, you do you. When you're a grown man and you're on man time and you're a gang member and you know what it is, then you don't got time to bump baking soda breath and sit there and woof. That shows the character of you. That shows that there's something about that person that his dick is all up in you for some reason, right? So you don't do that. You just chill and kick back. But once you get off the bus, right, they used to either ask you, hey, if you want to get off and go to the left and be all bad, you can go there. Here's your chance. Or you can go all the right and maintain your GP. And it would fucking boggle your mind to see how many homeboys. I remember one time I'm on the bus, this before that Jamestown, I'm on a bus, man, and we're getting to Tracy. And they did that, right? And I'm talking to the homies. We're chopping up, laughing, whatever. And as soon as we got off, only me and 2 other homeboys went right. All the rest went to the left. And I was like, where they going? And they were like, PC. I was like, what? We were just all, they were telling war stories about this and that, and nah. They already had their mind made up. So most people already know where the fuck they want to go, right? This ain't no situation where it's a mystery. It just is what it is. So anyways, I get to Jamestown, and I've told this story in the past. I'm already under the assumption, okay, this is a bad yard. I know what it is. It's not my yard to be on. Now, again, reverting back to what I said with the homeboy that I asked about, why don't we establish this yard? Why don't we just go and flip it? And he told me, because it just is the way it is. There's no explanation. He couldn't even explain it. So I had that mentality, like, I'd rather go on the yard and try at least to go out on my shield. Like, hey, homie, this is a homeboy yard, right? And if it isn't, it isn't. If it doesn't work out, but at least I could say when I go to the oil, when I report back, like, what happened? Hey, bro, I tried to fucking set up shop out there, bro, but it was just me against the world, right? Like a Tupac song. Wasn't happening. Anyways, this wasn't to be. This was get off. You have 72 hours. Now, before I get to the rest of that story, there was something that the cops were doing back in the days, especially with the Nortenos, because they knew of this curfew. See, there's nothing that goes on, no rules, regulations, or politics the cops don't already know about. They've already flipped people, got kites. They already know exactly who's getting there, what your jacket is, if you're active or not. They're just waiting. They're bidding their time. It's cold set upon. They know they got an active Norteno there. They're hoping and praying that you'll just kick back and stay on that yard to make things easier, or that way they can fucking get in your mind, pull you out to the program office and flip you, right? Get some information about what was going on at your reception or wherever you came from. That's what they're hoping. Every time a Norteño gets off, they're not mad. They're just like, hey, that was expected. I guess you're still functioning with your people. And a lot of vatos get off. There was a lot that stood, but a lot got off. So with that 72-hour period, these cops knew that. So if you were an asshole, say you're an asshole, or you're someone that was really with the business and had status, and they knew that, they were doing things where they would pull you off the bus, give you a write-up, and send you to the hole, right? And in that write-up, they'd find a way to keep you past that 72 hours. Now, I've seen a lot of homeboys get fucking washed up over that. See, when they ask you where you've been, so say this homeboy, he'd get out of the hole, or they'd transfer him. Oh, you can't be here on this yard. You pose a threat. So then they transfer him, but they'd keep him there for 72 hours. So now when you get to your next spot, God forbid that write-up better go with you, or if it doesn't, right? It's all bad. But you get, hey, where were you, home? Hey, I was just in Jamestown. Yeah, is that right? That's all bad, bro. How long were you there? Yeah, I was there for like 4 days and shit. You're bad. You're all bad. You're trash. You're a piece of shit. You're all that. You're no good no more. You're not Charlie, bro. The placas locked me up. I ain't trying to hear all that, bro. You should have got off right there on the placa. Whatever. Do whatever you got to do. But, So there were situations where they were fucking jamming people up and washing them up. I've seen it happen a couple times. Then I've seen a couple homeboys get their get backs like, Charlie, bro, they try to fucking do me dirty. One of the most school tactics. And it all depends on who's on that yard, who's educated and seasoned enough to understand them situations. Nowadays, with these youngsters, they ain't trying to hear all that. You knew what you signed up for. That's the main thing. You knew what you signed up for. So I was like, yeah, bro, but fucking, I didn't read the fine print. So anyways, back to my story. I'm in Jamestown. I pull up and I'm sitting. They take us off. They didn't give us that opportunity like, hey, you're going to go left or right. They didn't say that because we're on a fucking left yard, right? This yard's all left. So it's kind of just like we're going to play it by ear. So I remember getting off the bus and I'm belly chained up. And now they'll separate you by cage. If there was any vatos from Southern California, which there wasn't coming from Tracy that day, they would have put in one cage with, say, the whites and the Southsiders. Then they put the blacks and Northerners and others in another cage. And sometimes they put you all in the same cage. Just depends, right? What's going on in that fucking prison. Because you got to understand, even though it's on site in Tracy with North and South and you never run into each other, right? It's not like that when you hit the general population main line. It's more of a respect thing. It's always been like that. Unless the funk is on. And if it's a lockdown situation between North and South, they will separate you. So anyways, I remember sitting there and thinking, fuck, man, which one of these homeboys can I get in his mind to figure out if he's going to stay here or not? Because that's the homeboy I'm going to get off on. And if I can get me an ally, another couple homeboys that are fucking have the same idealisms that I got, and we're going to get off, that's even better, right? There wasn't no homeboys like that. So I'm sitting there talking to a homeboy from Delano, West Side Delano. And he's not an older cat. He's older than me, right? He was probably in his 40s at the time. I was, in my 20s. We're chopping it up. And just before I left, I was rewriting the B&Ls, right? Which is the bad news list with all the names of the people that are washed up. And one particular name stood out to me because I remember putting on the B&Ls wanted in the highest degree. Now, why he was wanted in the highest degree, I don't know. But basically, there was a hard green on him. Like, if you see this dude, just get off immediately. He's no good. Whether I think he might have told on some people or he did something, ran off with one of the banks or something. But it was all bad. So as I'm sitting there talking to him, he's getting comfortable. And I remember they gave us lunch and they had apples in there. And I'm sitting there, I'm not even trying to eat. I'm just trying to fucking gauge the situation. Like, hey, how am I going to fucking, if I can't get off on them, I'm going to get off on a white dude. Yes, a white man, brother. Because those were considered the enemy. Like, I was going to make something happen. But preferably, I wanted to get off on an NGN, which is called a no good Norteño, right? And as I'm sitting there, the clock's ticking. And I'm like, fuck, man, they're going to have us in there for a few hours. I got a couple hours. I ain't even trying to make chow. I'm just trying to smash something. And so as I'm kicking it, he says his name, his placazo, and I recognize it from the B&Ls. So I did a 5-on-5 real quick, like, hey, woo, 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 woo. Started, when I knew it was him, engaged, I hit him in the face with the apple. Bam! And I was on him, right? Get down, get down. They came in the cage, broke it up. Homie's looking at me like, whopping. I'm looking at him like, Norte, fool, right? And then did my cousin, and then they took me up out of there. That was my only time doing that, dealing with that. Other than that, I've been placed on decent yards where there was homeboys already set up. They had the shop set up. But from that situation right there, they took me straight to the oil. From the oil, they shipped me out to Corcoran, right? That's just what it was. So to me, the Norteño curfew, man, is probably the most vicious because of the time. It doesn't mean they're doing it more vicious than any other group. It just means the time that's allowed. Now, I seen Chill. Shout out to Chill, man, 16 to life. That's the homie right there. That's a good dude. You know, we had a conversation. We had a conversation the other day, man. He reached out to a homie, got my number. We called each other, man, and we got on the same page. And I agree with Chill when I say this, that we talked, and he said that he supported, what I got going on. I definitely support what he's got going on. That's a good brother right there. And he also said, man, a difference of opinion doesn't change the respect. And exactly, he's a real man. Real men say that. Yeah, we can have a difference of opinion on certain subjects all day long, but it's never going to hinder the respect we have for each other. So shout out to Chill, man. That's fact, right? We talk like men do. But I did see a video that Chill did where he talked about the blacks, the brothers don't have curfews or they can go to whatever yard they want. And that's the truth, man. And, a lot of people would think, well, how's that work? Well, I mean, it's different politics, man. We've always said you can't have your cake and eat it too in this genre and in this bullshit, right? There's good things and there's bad points. And with anything in life, that's just the way it is, right? And so one of the good points of the structure and politics of prison is that you got people to depend on, people that have got your back. Now, the loyalty and distrust, shit happens, right? But at least you got gente that are of like-mindedness in the same book, not necessarily the same page. Now, when it comes to the brothers, man, they're a little bit different. They got little different groups and they're independent and do what they want to do according to their politics of their group, right? But going to whatever yard they want to go to has never been an issue. See, 50-50 yards, were not 50-50 yards because of blacks. It was always 50-50 yards because of North, South, and whites. Because of the politics being certain dudes fell off or were not part of something, the brothers would be there. And they were active. They were cool within their people, but whatever group that 50-50 yard pertained to was not, right? So I've seen a lot of situations, but the curfew definitely is the hardest, I believe, for the Norteños because 72 hours, man, goes by fast. And I've seen dudes that were stuck. I remember one time, here's a cool story I never told. Youngster gets to Jamestown, right? Now I'm there this time. The second time I ended up going there was after, I'm not in the best of standings no more. I did the red on red in Susanville. I'm just done. My career's over, right? I've chalked it up. They ended up sending me back to Susanville, same yard I got off on, right? And I seen this youngster get there. It was from SAC. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he's still active doing his thing, but he gets there and he's flying under the radar. I recognize it. I seen it. I'm like, what's up, homie? He's like, what's up? I said, you're active, huh? And he just looked at me. I said, look, bro, hey, you want to get off? He was like, you gonna get off with me? That's when I knew I could have took flight right there. But I've never been bitter towards the actives. That's never been my thing. Hey, there was a dude I didn't like on the yard. I said, get off on that puto right there. He did too. Hey, the fool was like, yo, you fucking knew that shit. I said, I didn't know nada, right? Anyways, with that being said, that's my take on that, man. I will be doing another video. I'm addressing some shit later on. Make sure you guys tap in. I think I'm going to take the higher road and be the bigger man in this situation and explain some shit to you guys. Make sure you guys tap in. Don't forget about the collective clips. You guys already know, man, I got some supers going on today. It is what it is. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that always has worn the crown. And I'm going to continue to do what I do for all the gente. Bang, bang.